Put a person in an empty room. No phone, no book. Nothing to do but sit there and think. Now give them a button. Press it, and you get a small electric shock. Painful enough that minutes earlier, this same person said they'd pay real money just to avoid feeling it once. Here's what actually happened when researchers tried this. A lot of people pressed the button anyway. Some of them pressed it a lot. In 2014, a psychologist named Timothy Wilson ran an experiment that even his own research team thought was a waste of time. The setup was simple. Sit alone in a plain, quiet room for 15 minutes. Nothing to read, no phone. Just think about anything you want. Before that, each participant had already been shown a mild electric shock, the kind that feels like a sharp static jolt, and asked how much of $5 they'd pay to never feel it again. Every single one of them chose to pay something. Nobody wanted that shock. Then they were left alone in the room with a button. That would give them that exact shock, on demand, if they wanted it. Wilson's own team predicted, quote, "No one is going to shock themselves." Why would they? They'd already said out loud that they'd pay to avoid it. They were wrong. 67% of the men in the study gave themselves at least one shock. So did 25% of the women. One participant, just sitting there, alone, with his own thoughts, for 15 minutes, pressed that buttons 190 times. Let that sit for a second. These weren't people who forgot they hated the shock. They'd said so, minutes earlier, with actual money on the line, and they chose it anyway, over their own thoughts. So here's the question this study is actually asking. What is happening inside a quiet room that's worse than voluntary pain? Across 11 separate versions of this experiment, Wilson found the same pattern, again and again. Most people did not enjoy sitting and thinking. Not slightly uncomfortable, genuinely, measurably unpleasant. Around half rated the experience at or below the midpoint of an enjoyment scale. It didn't matter if they did it in a sterile lab or in the comfort of their own living room. It didn't matter if they were 18 or 77. Wilson tested a huge range of ages and backgrounds and found no group, none, for whom quiet, undirected thinking was something people reliably enjoyed. Compare that to reading a book or listening to music, alone, no interaction with anyone else. People rated those roughly twice as enjoyable as simply sitting and thinking. Which raises the real question behind all of this. It's not, why don't people like being alone? Plenty of people are alone all the time, doing things they love. The real question is, why is it specifically the thinking part that people can't tolerate? Here's Wilson's actual answer, and it's not the one you'd expect. It's not about phones. It's not about a distracted generation. His data included people who grew up with none of that. His conclusion was more fundamental. The human mind, he said, is designed to engage with the outside world. Even when you're physically alone, your attention naturally wants something external to grab onto, left with nothing but your own unstructured thoughts. Most minds don't drift to somewhere pleasant. They drift toward whatever's unresolved. Worry, rumination, the mental equivalent of an itch you can't quite locate. Silence doesn't create peace by default. It creates space, and your brain fills empty space with whatever it hasn't finished processing yet. For a lot of people, that's not a calm blank canvas. That's every unresolved thought, queued up, and waiting for its turn. Which is why the shock button makes a strange kind of sense, once you see it from the inside. The shock wasn't more painful than the silence. It was just shorter and more concrete. A brief jolt you can predict the end of, versus 15 open-ended minutes with a mind that won't stop circling. Given a straight choice between an unpleasant sensation you can control and an unpleasant sensation you can't, a surprising number of people will choose the one they can control, even if, on paper, it hurts more. That's not weakness. That's not a broken brain, or a distracted generation, or a character flaw. It's what happens, reliably, in a species whose mind evolved to look outward, dropped into a room built to force it to look inward instead. So, why would someone rather hurt themselves than sit with their own thoughts? Because an unoccupied mind doesn't default to rest. It defaults to searching. And if there's nothing external to search, it turns inward, toward whatever's unfinished, unresolved, or uncomfortable. The people in that room weren't uniquely bad at being alone. They were behaving exactly the way Wilson's data says most human minds behave, when the world stops giving them somewhere else to look. If you've ever reached for your phone the second a room goes quiet, that's not necessarily a bad habit you picked up. It might be a very old, very human instinct, doing exactly what it was built to do, giving your mind somewhere outward to land, so it doesn't have to sit with whatever's still unresolved inside. And that unresolved feeling doesn't just show up in empty rooms. It's the exact same discomfort that makes some people say yes to things they don't want to do, just to avoid an uncomfortable silence in a conversation. The same discomfort, a different room. That's next. If this changed the way you see the world, the next video on your screen will change the way you see yourself. Click it now. And if you're fascinated by the psychology behind everyday life, subscribe, because we're just getting started.